Hey everybody, Pure Marquette 1223 here to do a review video, one of the first that I've done in a very long time. I'm here to talk about some of the goodies that I gathered at the decommissioning of a local crossing lately. There was a crossing in downtown Grand Rapids, Michigan that was being abandoned, and I went down there all 4 days that it was abandoned, and on 2 of those days when the signal maintainers were there, I managed to get some equipment to bring home, and this is what I'm going to talk about to show you. I have, well, there's technically 4 things, but there's only 3 of them here. Well, not really, I'll explain. The first one is this little guy right here. This is the this is the old Conrail DOT identification number sign that was banded to one of the signals. This is just a little aluminum sign, nothing really special about it. It says Conrail on the top, which is why I wanted it. But the signal setup that was removed was installed in 1982 by a somewhat still young Conrail, and this is the sign that they put on all of the crossings. And obviously they would have a different identification number, but this was the ID number of the crossing, and it carried that number up until when it was abandoned. It just received several more identification signs with the railroad who owned it at the time. I believe there was Norfolk Southern and a Grand Elk one also on there as well, but the Norfolk Southern one was just a sticker that was completely blanked over by a Sharpie, and the Grand Elks ones, well, they had to keep. So I was obviously not able to get those. But I wrote on the back the information. It's not very clear writing, but it says, between the Conrail on the top, Fulton Street, Grand Rapids, Michigan, abandoned 8/9/15, removed 8/11/15. So I put the information on the back of the sign. Pretty cool. One of the newer things I have in my collection. I never thought I would really own something from Conrail one day, but I definitely did. Definitely do now. Another thing that I have, it's over here on the right. Something that they're not afraid giving away. It's a little Reco gate light. It's got a little bit of wire on here. This is not on here very well. Oh well. These Reco gate lights, they're made of plastic. It says Reco on the front. It has a red lens. I know the light works. I have not tested it since I've had it, but this came off of the gate on the westbound signal. I'm not sure which light it was, but not sure exactly how to wire it up either, because there's 3 wires in here, and I know that one of them's the positive and one of them's the ground. I'm not quite sure what the other one is for, but got a little gate light. Apparently they're not a fan by the signal maintainers up here, because Michigan weather is very harsh on signals, and even if something is made out of a metal that shouldn't deteriorate, believe it or not, it will. And the aluminum insides of these, like in here and on this side, apparently will start to rot and corrode. So it's not bad in there, but it's not the greatest. I don't really have anything with me right now to open it at the moment, so I'm going to go take and actually get something to take and open up the bell here, because I forgot to. So I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to take and obviously show you the really big and obvious one that's I got off the signal. This is a Western Cullen Hayes 0333 mechanical crossing bell, and what it's sitting on is actually the cap off of the top of the cantilever signal it was mounted on. The signals that were being torn down, like I said, were installed in 1982, which actually makes this a very early WCH bell, because Western Cullen was founded in 1979 after the merger of several different companies into one. So this makes it a very early Western Cullen bell. Western Cullen bells, it's the same model of bell that's basically been made. It dates back to the Bryant Zinc Company. They first manufactured this model of bell when Bryant Zinc was bought by Western Railroad Supply they made their model, the 1209, I believe. And they made that in a couple different versions. They made it with they made 2 different gong variations, a soft tone and a couple other ones, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. They also made their very iconic WRRS mini bell, which I very, very much desire. But they made this bell, and then when Western Railroad Supply got bought out by Federal Signal in, I believe, the 1960s, Federal Signal continued to make this bell. The only thing they changed was the markings on the door. All the casting numbers on the bell remained the same, the base remained the same, and then Federal Signal got the Western Calling Company, and they operated semi-independently, and thus you had the Western Calling Division of Federal Signal. Well, the Western Calling Division of Federal Signal consolidated with Federal Signal, and they also bought 2 other different companies. 1 or 2 other different companies. I don't exactly remember the history 100%. And in 1979, you have Western Cullen Hayes created. And Western Cullen Hayes continue to make these bells. And they still do, believe it or not. They're just not very, very popular. They make the 0333 and the 0666. I've never heard of the 0666. I've never seen the 0666. I don't know what the difference would be. So, if anybody knows the difference between the 0333 and the 0666, let me know. But this is a 0333. And this is a very early one because this is still a WRRS stamped base fitting. If you were to take and lift the bell up, which I'm not going to, it still says WRRS Co. stamped on the inside. The later Western Calling bells had a whole new base design made for them that was compatible with 2 different diameter posts, the newer style and the older style. This is the newer style. This is for the newer style post, I believe, because this is a 5-inch diameter fitting. If I were to take and measure this, I could figure it out. But the cantilever cap, I'm calling it, is cast aluminum it's the bottom part's cast aluminum, the top is just the metal pipe that's been welded on there, as you can obviously see. The base fitting is cast aluminum, which apparently they are notorious for breaking. In fact, the other bell that was on the opposite signal had actually been involved in a little accident. The cantilever was hit by a truck, and the top of the whole catwalk was ripped clean off the bell, or the signal, excuse me, and the bell actually fell off and hit the ground. Well, the base fittings broke, but the bell was still intact, and they didn't want to take and go out and purchase a new bell. So what they did was they took and welded a piece of steel tubing into the base fittings of the bell, drilled a hole in this cap, put a piece of metal over this cap, drilled a hole in it, stuck that bolt in there, or that tubing, and that's how they made the bell stay. So these bells are very, very rugged, very, very reliable. The base fittings are absolute crap. But mine has all 3 bolts with it. 2 of them come out. One, unfortunately, was broke off by the maintainer when he was trying to get the bell out. No harm, no foul. I could still remove the bell as is, but it is in there. And when I say in there, we can't move it. We'd have to probably weld a nut on there in order to get it off, but there ain't much there to go off of. Your range shield is cast aluminum. Your body is cast aluminum. Your door is cast aluminum. And your bell, though, is steel. It is clearly steel, as you can see, because it's starting to rust a little bit, but it's not too bad. I'm going to take and actually open up this bell, and you're actually going to be able to see one of the things that I got from the signal. There we go. I put this lock on here. This lock actually came off of this. This lock actually came off of this signal. This used to be on the ladder cover. It's a early Safetran lock, later Rayco lock. It's obsolete because it's got the triangle bit on the inside. It's brass, but it's pretty corroded. I like or at least it's pretty oxidized, I should say. I like the oxidized look, so I'm just going to keep it that way. That was the third thing that I got off. This signal, the bell was actually the last thing I managed to get off. But I'm going to take and turn the bell around here so you can see the back. See on the back here, it does say Western Colin Hayes on the bell. Oh, yeah, you can see that. It says Western Colin Hayes in the bell. This is about the only thing that WRRS changed was the way the bell stayed shut and the door. Other than that, the hinge design, everything like that, stayed the same. Now, I'm going to say this too, because I'm sure a lot of you are probably pointing out. It appears that I'm missing the bolt that also goes in here. I have the bolt. Mine had the bolt. It is inside the bell. I put it in there just for safekeeping. So the bolt is there because the door is threaded on these. The earlier bells had a threaded latch mechanism similar to the Union Switch and Signal teardrop bell. That's how all the earlier bells are. The Western Colin Hayes and the newer Union Switch and Signal Model 25 mechanical crossing bells that are still made still have this threaded bolt feature. We're going to open it up. And as you can see, mine is actually, for some odd reason, missing the paper that is supposed to go on the inside here. It doesn't even appear that it ever had one. I don't know if it was too early for it to, whoops. I don't know if it was too early to have a paper, but it doesn't have one for whatever reason. So here though is the bolt that we took and put in there. It's just a standard 1/2-inch bolt, but this is what was in the bell, so in case any of you are curious. But here's the inside of the bell. The bell is extremely clean, very good shape. You can see though, like some of the casting marks, I don't know how well you can see this, but this one says WC12201C. The top says WC1208. You know, I mean, there are Western call marks everywhere, but like I said, the inside of this of the base fittings are actually says WRRS still. The bell is very, very clean. Shows little to no wear, and that is because after these signals were upgraded by Conrail and installed, or the crossing was upgraded by Conrail and installed, 1980 the whole thing got relayed with the 132-pound rail. 1982 these signals were installed. These signals were not used very often. It was mainly a stub track that eventually you would go in, cross the crossing, and then back up into the industry, which is Padnos Iron Scrap, or as it's called around here, Joe Brown Scrap. But it never saw much use. At most, it was probably activated anywhere from 2 to 3 times a month, and sometimes even less than that. So the crossing bell itself did not see very much use, and for that, a lot of the stuff inside is in immaculate condition for it being 33 years old. I don't have any power hooked up to this bell. I have had it running though. As you can see, I have some cord here. I'm going to take and push down some. But the bell sounds very, very good. I'm just going to manually ring it for you here. But if you remember from my Union Switch and Signal bell, they work the same way. It's the same style mechanism. Electromagnets here, bunch of wire coiled up. Takes and charges up, grabs this little grabs the little counterweight right here, which is metal, pulls it down, clink, breaks this circuit right here, and thus allows the electromagnetics to be shut off. This will go back up, and this is how this is attached to the gong. And when it's doing this very, very fast and very, very strong, it will take and ring the bell, or it'll strike the bell and have the gong hit it. So that's basically about it. It sounds very, very good. I checked the inside of the bell. There's virtually no wear on it. I'll take and hook the bell up, and I'll probably just take and hook the bell up briefly, and then I'll take and run it. running off the power. So I'm going to go get some power source here and be right back.